Well, hello, everybody. How's it going? All right. See what we got here. Debbie Webb. Okay, you're surfing, going backboard. GG. Iron Rabbit, of course. Hi, Rabbit. Heidi. Yeah, and whoever else is out there and just hanging out. Thanks for being here. All right. So, everybody been having a good weekend? You still got a bunch of stuff going on. All the hurricane crap and... Yeah. But we're here to have fun. We're going to put a bunch of that stuff aside. I got this damn fly that is annoying me. Had my door open. I was doing some painting today. I think I'm feeling better, but those dragons and mushrooms were sure pretty. Anyway. So I hope you have whatever beverage that you have that's going to help you get through this tonight. I have a feeling that the remainder of this story is going to be kind of painful. So, but thank you all for being here. There's that silky. Well, I'm glad you enjoy it. Thank you. Hey, Ray Ray. How's it going? Okay. Well, unless there are any other announcements or anything, we might as well go ahead and get this pain over with. Now, the plan is potentially, I don't know how long this is going to take or how it's going to go. But depending on how it is or how I'm feeling at the end, we might finish or at least do more of that. Well, I don't know. There's quite a bit left. I was going to say finish that ghost story that we started a while ago. Because it is that season. And we need to get back on some more spooky ghost story stuff. So, this was kind of a nice little reprieve while I was busy doing other stuff. And so that's part of the reason why I haven't actually been posting normally. And just doing this pretty much once or twice a week. So, okay. So I might give it a couple more minutes here. See if anybody else wants to jump in. All right. Well, let's see here. Let me take a look here. Yeah, it's been almost 10 minutes. I started doing the intro. All right. So, where we left off last time was took a look at the mountain with 0 friends. So, we're on chapter 9 now. So let's see how this goes. Oh, Shizzy's going to do a redirect? Oh, okay. Well, cool. Hopefully they're buffeted enough with liquid courage by the time they get here. All right, chapter 9. Billy pointed a fat, wabbit finger at the great, pitiful-looking mountain in the distance. What are we waiting for? Let's get over. Ouch! Billy had stepped on the rake and sent its handle flying into his face in a classic and hilarious blunder. They all laughed at the brief moment of levity in his deathly serious YOLO. As they drew nearer to the mountain, they saw that there was nothing to see anywhere. Its surface, devoid of all life, looked super lame. The rake was maybe 50 times cooler, and that rake wasn't even at the top 10 coolest rake in Whittle Earth lists of Slory. that she had been reading for the past 5 months. The list was 20 sentences long, and Slory could read about a sentence a week if she was really pushing herself. It took Horry about 4 months to calculate this. The closer they came, the more the group was dismayed by the mountain with 0 friends. Normal features of a Whittle Earth mountain it had not. Where was the world-class ski resort, the commemorative mountain goat tours, the thousands of St. Bernard dogs roaming around looking for somebody to heal with their life-saving medicine neck barrels? Why did everything smell vaguely of cauliflower? Who, pray tell, would possibly want to spend any time here, considering the mountain of 4,367 friends was close enough nearby that you could just make out the laughter and snowmobile noises? In truth, the mountain with 0 friends wouldn't have known itself why anybody bothered with it. It was a fluke mountain to begin with, you see. It just showed up one day where there was once a totally amazing valley. The men of Flail avoided getting close to the mountain, just because it wasn't their kind of mountain, nothing personal. The little people originally only hung around there to play its Nintendo 64 on single player and eat all the Cheetos it gave them. Ugh. Told you, it's going to be painful. They felt guilty saying it, but Billy and the little people felt uncomfortable around this mountain. It kept awkwardly avalanching everywhere they tried to walk, and it would just make it worse with an apology avalanche. Courtney tried to hug the mountain out of pity, but it got her entire outfit utterly soaked, and not even in a flattering way. Feely was trapped under an avalanche for about 2 weeks until somebody noticed he was missing. Ballin got so fed up, he screamed, "This is so pathetic!" Then felt bad about it and promised to go see a movie with the mountain at some point. I mention this only because it is illustrative of the many comments made by Ballin and Drawlin that could have been made by anybody, and are certainly more emblematic of a universal range of emotions than any of any one race or ethnicity. It's important to note that if I keep bringing up Ballin and Dwallin's angry comments, it is only because this is a long and difficult YOLO, and if I was to record all that they said and did, this would probably need to be a trilogy. If, for example, the only comment Drawlin makes in this chapter happens to be about the famous Whittle Earth race riots, that does not mean we can reduce him to a stereotype of a little person who is always harping on nothing but race riots. I, for one, do no such thing, and neither should you. I bet this mountain... Oh, wait a minute. Oh, this is Drawlin. I bet this mountain was too aloof to even take a side during the last summer's race riots, Dwalin remarked. It was in between losing Feely and remembering that Kiwi had a brother when he realized they had a long search for the secret door ahead of them, or to the left or right of them, depending. It could have been inside that nasty cavern that was next to the other nasty cavern, or it could have been beneath the stinky cliff that was next to the stinky cliff in a different way cliff. Oh, God. This was all your idea. All of you wanted this. This is all your fault. This is your idea. Remember that. But first, our travelers, though, they should check out what was in front of the line of... Wait a minute. Check out what was at the front of the line of Whittle Earthlings snaking down the side of the mountain. In Whittle Earth, lines rarely formed in front of secret doors, but you never knew. And there was the fact that Dumbledaff had been inviting everyone to meet at the secret door since the beginning of the YOLO. Still, the line was unusual, and had been the first... Oh, Billy had been the first to spot it, exclaiming, "Wow, a line! I love lines." This was true. Billy had spent his whole life looking out at lines of customers waiting for him to bag their fine groceries. He had always wondered what it was like to be in a line. Maybe lines were how you met women. Billy would soon find out. After the first 3 weeks of waiting in line, they could make out at a distance from in front of a massive rock, and in front of that a velvet rope and a bouncer in cool as shorken shield shades. He was clearly a winner of a man, emotionally and intellectually fulfilled, strong, personal brand. Groin pointed out that the bouncer held a long rod, which excited all for what might come next from the prophetically audacious little person's mouth. But soon it was clear that it was just a baton to hit people when he rejected them. And he rejected everyone: elves, moblins, cool humans who had cool catchphrases like, "That ain't nobody's Tabasco." Various woodland creatures trying to build nests along the mountainside, indigenous trees, and Dumbledaff at least 5 times. They kept trying to wave to Dumbledaff, but he was either pretending not to know them or having an episode of dementia. Another month later, they moved up a few places, but in a cool way. After 4 months, they made it to the bouncer. "No secret door here. Move along," he intoned. Then he raised his long rod, ready to strike. "Wait!" shrieked Billy. "We waited for so long. Please, we're good little people and a wobbit. We pay our taxes. We don't litter. None of us has ever kicked a dog. We all subscribe to the Harvard Lampoon. We've never committed arson." "Hold on. Did you say you subscribe to the Lampoon? The Harvard Lampoon, the oldest continually published humor magazine in the world?" "Of course," said Billy. "We all know that the Lampoon is the most entertaining, insightful, and enriching achievement of letters in the history of the written word." "You better not be joking," snapped the bouncer. "It's deadly serious when the Lampoon is involved. I'll check the list." He looked at a scroll of parchment rimmed in gold, a vague and beautiful light shining from it. "Yes, you're right here. B. Bagboy and all his little people friends, or whatever. The $20 annual subscription. Oh, that's him still. Never mind. The $20 annual subscription plan, eh? Good choice. You guys can go in." The bouncer knocked on the rock 3 times. Then he knocked 16 more times. Oh, I'm going to have to read that part over again. Hold on just a second. My heater kicked up again. All right. There we go. All right. Probably was bleeding over, so I'll just cut it off. Okay, where were we? All right, now. No, hold on. God. Oh! Stupid thing. Shut up. There we go. Okay. I think that did it. All right. The bouncer knocked on the rock 3 times. Then he knocked 16 more times, breathed really heavy on it a few times, and pressed his fingers against a keypad drawn with sidewalk chalk and whispered, "Beep, bop, boop, beep." Then he put a bit of dynamite under the rock and set it off, exploding the rock into 1,000 bits. The bouncer pulled back the velvet rope. "Coat check to your right. No flash photography." They walked in, following the thumping bass coming through the walls. Magic was everywhere. magic walls that were not the color of dirt, magic urinals that automatically flushed, magic balls hanging from the ceiling, covered in reflectors and spinning silently, ominously, beautifully, as if by the dark magic of Moblin's spells. It was by far the best club on the mountain. But all the magic made the little people nervous, and soon their beards were drenched in sweat, which can be a real hazard for little people. Sorkin Shield's great-granduncle had drowned in a beard sweat during a nerve-wracking first date. The little people decided it was probably cooler anyway if they just stayed in the coat check. Of course, someone had to be brave and bold and fearless, and the little people figured the protagonist was the best person for the job. And so Billy started down the dark caverns into the mountain alone, wobbling with fright on top of his regular wobbling. Ah, stupid fly. All right, this is going to be, Anyway. Where was I? The hall still possessed the remnants of the classic little people style from when they called the mountain their home. Big tufts of hair growing out from the walls. Everything inexplicably covered in mud. The "Dragon This Way" neon signs would have been a real help if Billy had been able to read. But at least the graffiti wasn't that offensive, and Billy was impressed at himself for understanding the one reading. I have no idea what that says. Something about Gabe and Melissa. Right above two hugging skeletons huddled on the ground. Oh, Gabe, I think it's supposed to be Gabe loves Melissa. Whatever. Billy kept on into the deepest depths of the mountain until there it was, the deepest chamber. It had a bathroom and a janitor's closet. He went back one level of depth, and there... Wait a minute, what? Oh, he went back one level of depth, and there it was. Magic Dragon. Puff. Whatever. He had so many names. The awful dragon looked exactly like the songs described him. Horrifyingly woeful eyes, iridescent green scales of death, tufts of hair around his ears that looked like cotton candy. Poisonous cotton candy. What's worse, he was fast asleep. He clutched 5 or 6 teddy bears and a ream of paper on which he had written, Jack. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Probably dreaming about some psychologically troubling evil dragon dreams, thought Billy. Probably dismembering some unicorns in his dreams. Probably performing hate crimes and stealing food from old ladies. Oh, so he was so steamed. What? Whatever. That dragon was going to be so dead when somebody else killed him later. But when he saw the spoils, ay caramba, Billy tastefully gloated. It was incredible. There must have been 60,000 trophies, and that was just the Oscars. There were another 10,000 Grammys, a slew of People's Choice Awards, and a huge pile of MTV Video Music Awards. No BET Awards, and a single Tony for Best Lighting Design. God, this is painful. Billy smiled. This was going to be easier than making an elf cry. All he had to do was ankletise himself into 48 feet per second and stuff some Emmys into his fat rolls. Goodness knows he had enough of those to carry home HBO's entire trophy case. Billy squeezed on his anklet and rolled some of his leg fat down to his feet for extra padding. Utter silence would be necessary to carry out this caper successfully. It's It's like I'm back in Wilbatabad, bagging potato chips without being allowed to make a single sound, or else I would instantly get burned to death, he said to himself. He clasped his hands over his mouth. He should have thought it to himself. Puff awoke with a start. He rose up, yawned, rubbed his eyes, brushed his teeth, and looked all around him. He wore a homemade t-shirt that said, "Hug me. I'm a normal dragon." What was a poor wabbit to do? Billy threw a golden goblet at him. "Oh, dude, is somebody there?" asked Puff, because being a magic dragon means you can speak the same English that every single other creature in Middle Earth speaks, though the Jerkwood Forest spoke it with an offensive Mexican accent. "Dude, if, it's that one rude water buffalo again, or the insulting slinging wizard, I will inform the authorities immediately." Puff stuck out his snout, not unlike a dog's nose, except for 685 times bigger. "Dude, oh, but wait, you totally smell like a friend. Oh, cool." Billy thought for a moment. He had to be careful about this dragon. Dragons were capable, presumably, of killing wabbits. "So, how are things?" Billy patted himself on the back. He could not believe how good he was at making conversation. "Dude, I'm totally great now that you're here. My insides have warmed right up." Puff's insides, a mixture of pretty clouds and endangered dolphin sanctuaries. A place for expert to retire. Had won a few People's Choice Awards themselves in the last age. "Oh, that's great," said Billy. "Great." He knew not how to proceed. This was usually the part of a wabbit conversation when somebody would break to either eat donuts or breathe out of their mouths for a while. Hey, we'll pick it from there. Well, hi, Shizzy Raiders. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Cool. All right. Now, let's see. Where was I? For a while. The dragon would surely devour him if he did not act quickly. He sucked his thumb enough to know. He tasted delicious. But Puff was already making the next move, tossing a giant, crudely wielded ring of trophies at Billy. Stupid fly. All right. "Dude, have a friendship bracelet," roared the dragon in his blood-curdlingly beautiful voice. I bet it is. "Dude, we're totally now besties." Billy was rather sure he had just survived an attempted murder. But standard policy was to give every dragon a second chance, so he stuck around. Still, he decided he might as well hurry up and start stuffing trophies into his skin crevices while the distracted dragon rambled on about various tortures he would put Billy through. "Dude, I totally have so much planned for us. Maybe we could do origami together later, okay? Then I have a couple of tickets to a sing-along screening of Suddenly Moblin, the musical. But if you'd rather, we could do a pub crawl or just stay and weave baskets, man. And we should definitely sign up for a cooking class. I'm so excited. Jack won't do any of this stuff with me." The dragon held up the ream of paper labeled Jack. "Listen, keep this between you and me, dude. But I worry a stack of paper named Jack, and I've gone really distant. Wait a minute, what? I don't know. He's totally high. I think it might be that one time I accidentally lit him on fire. There was now no denying that Puff wanted to kill him, be it a quick death by fire or a slow death through ordeal. Billy could barely contain his fear, and for a wobbit, that meant more uncontrollable wobbling. "Dude," said Puff, "I smell you getting closer. I think somebody wants to cuddle." Billy was petrified. He was wobbling like a pendulum now and was very weighted down by the awards, especially the Grammys, which seemed to be made of pewter. But just then the dragon stopped. "Dude, wait," Puff said bravely. "I just totally want to warn you that dragons aren't necessarily the optimal cuddlers. With our hard scales and very tiny arms." T-Rex understands that. It's a shame. "Oh, and very tiny arms, and fire we breathe, so I really need you to be supportive and not make fun of me while I'm trying to cuddle, okay?" This is so dumb. But as Puff was saying this, Billy took his chance and ran, wards spewing out of his massive frame left and right, clanging to the ground, sending sparks flying everywhere, lighting parts of Puff's bed and couch on fire. "I am a hero, and heroes cannot die," cried Billy. "And I will bag various canned goods and fresh produce well into old age, just as I prophesied to myself once. Nah!" Puff did not understand why his friend was running away, and for a harrowing moment, he doubted himself. Maybe dragons never got to have friends. Maybe you had to trade in friends when you acquired fire-breathing powers and the ability to fly and wisps of immortality. Maybe that wasn't even a terrible trade-off, especially compared to the sentient swamp lumps from the Sadlands, who could have all the friends they wanted, as long as they were either sentient swamp lumps from the Sadlands. Not either. Whatever. But Puff only wavered long enough to change this into his, "Dude, I'm Puff and I am rough, so let's roughhouse" shirt. Then, full of a new lust for friendship, he burst out of the mountain frolicking in friendly furor, blowing horribly destructively fireballs of joy. Meanwhile, the mountain with 0 friends stayed sadly behind, though it had always been ready to be Puff's BFF. This irony was lost on both, because irony didn't exist in Whittle-Earth. Billy rushed post-haste back to the little people, who had been sitting in complete silence at the coat check. Not a thing had happened, save for a brief make-out session between Drawlin and Courtney in the corner, and both had quickly realized it would affect their professional relationship. Kiwi also hooked up with Loin, but that had been happening for months. He's a chicken joker. Kiwi's a bird, just in case you forgot. Billy explained everything to the little people and urged them to explore the mountain while Puff was away, so that the little people at last set off for the second deepest chamber. And when they saw the various televisions and media awards, they practically ripped their beards off with joy. Everybody hooted and hollered, and they could finally use all of their heavy confetti they'd packed. After a couple hours of partying, they started exploring the treasure, and that's when Billy spotted it. A bald gem, gruff and endearing, full of wisecracks. It was the Alan Arkin stone, he was sure, and he knew it was Sorkinshield's greatest desire to possess this roughly handsome award-winning stone with expert comedic timing. He stuffed it into the globule space right below his ankle. Anklet. Where he knew no one would want to look. Eventually, they grew bored of the Oscars, which were mostly for best makeup anyway, and decided to get out of the mountain for a while. Sork and Shield knew the most efficient route was past the food court and the spa and the official gift shop to the great front gates with a dragon-shaped hole where Puff had broken through earlier that day. They gazed out over the sad, sad mountain, realizing that all the golden accolades in the world were nothing compared to the feeling of finally returning to your one true home. They got bored and depressed within 5 minutes. And that is the painful conclusion of Chapter 9. And so we'll go on to Chapter 10 here shortly. Oh. If anyone needs some aspirin or Aleve, Tylenol, any other form of pain-numbing items, now's your chance. Cutter's Pub. Hello. N.D. Robertson. Direxy. How you doing? Classy 2256. Trying to figure out where he went to from Shizzy's. I'm really a nobody. I somewhat, sort of, kind of read stories with Shizzy. Mainly, I just try to get him to stop helmet testing the wall with his special little helmet. Let's see here. NW Webb, of course, and Heidi. Catch it 13. Just subbed. Oh, well, thank you. I hope you enjoy it. Shooting Star. Hello. You for 2. And Ray Ray. All right. And of course, Shizzy Wiznut. Thanks for sending everybody over here, man. Yeah. We're trying to finish our ridiculous little story here. Our adventure of stupidity. So I hope you all enjoy it. And as I have said many times before, just like we do on Sunday Night Spice, this is, and never forget, all your fault. The chatters, those who just come by to listen, have begged for this pain. I am washing my hands of this, and am free and clear. This is all your fault. Sure, he wore his helmet, but he didn't lick the windows. No, Deborah, I am a crayon eater. I did not have the energy to stand up to lick the windows, so I stay hunched in the corner eating my crayons. However, the green ones are my favorite. The CREs help the MREs slide out, so I get my greens, and I stay regular at the same time. Stacy Schmidt. It's always fun. Well, thank you. I'm glad. I could not find windows. Yeah. Weird because my crayons are missing. Well, I'm often accused of sneaking in and out of places. Well, I'm just going to let that go. I'm sneaky. Yeah. Shizzy needs a drool cup next. Love your voice and undertone chuckle on Sundays. Well, thank you. I'm glad you... Sunday Night Spice is all... Like in Shizzy and I talked about this too, but behind the scene. It's definitely a group effort, that's for sure. Because when one of us isn't there, it just feels weird. It's just off. So, as far as the core group, and then of course, Welsh Lady reads, or Miss Nocturna, whoever else comes along and reads with us as well, just adds to it. But as far as the core group, as Shizzy says, somebody's missing. It's just weird. It's just not the same. Because we all, I think, bounce off of each other pretty well. It feels weird when we're there too. Yeah. Right? Silly. Yeah. Like a warm, buttery rum. Wow. I really don't know what to say to that. All right. Moisture is not there without the main clan. Right? Right, Gutters Pub? No. I know, buttery, yeah. That does ring. Yeah. I haven't had one of those in a long time. But it's coming up on eggnog season soon. And I do like eggnog with the good. Now, it used to be, because everybody talks about Fireball. And Fireball was great. But to me, it's always had this too sugary and this weird kind of sugary aftertaste. There's this other one, and it's a Canadian one too, but it's called Catch Fire. It's not as sweet. It's still very cinnamony, but it's not as sweet, and it doesn't have a sugary aftertaste like Fireball does. And it's really good in eggnog. Really good in eggnog. Now, see, with regular rum, I can't, because the rum in and of itself, regardless whether it's straight rum or if it's, some other type, rum in and of itself is really sweet to me. And so it brings too much sweetness to it. So I've always liked whiskey in there. But that cinnamon whiskey, especially, either one really, but especially Catch Fire, yeah, that's really good in there. And I can only allow myself so much. I make a lot of jokes and say a lot of stuff about drinking, but my liver doesn't like me anymore. I was pretty dumb when I was younger. So you can't drink it away, that's for sure. And even though I knew better, anyway. Yeah, so I have to be careful when I drink. So I try and, like I said, most of my stories are just nostalgia. Some very good remembrances, some not so good, and, well, some to this day that I can't remember how or why. Like waking up naked. And I still, to this day, have no idea why. Anyway. All right, so, Chapter 10. Y'all go ahead and have fun listening and banter amongst yourselves. And we'll try and get through this last part of the pain. So take a deep breath. It's going to pinch a little. All right. Oh, does anybody need a bio break before we continue on with this? I'm okay. I'm sure we've all been there. Pixar, it never happened. Yeah. No. Yeah, you just want to see me naked. Pants or prison. So take that for what it is. Stay hydrated. Yes, I do. Yeah, I do have my cinnamon tea here. So I am taking some sips. Anybody else needs to get something to drink or make a bio run, now's your chance. We'll just kind of sit here for a minute and BS. And like I said, this will be the beginning of Chapter 10. And I think there was a total of 14 chapters. 14 or 15, something I don't know. I'm not going to go all the way up and look again. We'll just go until the pain's over. So, what did Shizzy eggnog body shot off Gunner's Pub? Ooh, Gunner's Pub gonna be a lick-a-luge. Lick. We'll just pour drinks down her. A little sweet and salty. All right. Chapter 10. What? Little pain is good for you. Yeah, I know, right? Batteries and jumper cables. Oh. I wasn't muted. Okay. Chapter 10. Now, if you wish, like the little people, to learn what happened to Puff the Magic Dragon, you must go back to the day when he stormed out of the mountain with 0 friends. Luckily, this is the same day just described in the last chapter, so it's not going to take a whole lot of effort from either of us. Why is this skipping around? Hold on. Okay. At the time, the men of Raketown were mostly indoors. And you would be too if it was that cold. The women, possibly due to weather, were nowhere to be found. Little could be seen of the mountain with 0 friends from Raketown, as the river that ran water blocked its lower base, and nobody wanted to look at an awkward loner for too long anyway. It was an age of swift and rather exciting evolutionary progression, and sympathy was a weakness in battle for survival. It is said that the great apes only managed to acquire opposable thumbs because they could never figure out how to truly love one another. My God. I do not know who said this. I don't think it matters. To be honest, I doubt it was a scientist. No shit. And so the residents of Raketown devoted little attention to the mountain with 0 friends. It was certainly no help that always up there was a deadly dragon who wore the most tiresome t-shirts. The humans could only make out the utmost peak of the mountain from their point of view, and they were pretty bad at viewing matters from any other perspective. Even so, they could not help but notice a flash of gold atop the mountain on that fateful night. There was much discussion amongst the rakers as to what might be the source. Perhaps it is the little people sending gold down the river. The songs are coming true at last. Unlikely, said a grim man. If you found gold, you would immediately throw it into a river? The men glanced around nervously. None had considered this before. The edicts of the songs were a little impractical upon closer examination. Also problematic was the fact that the lyricist had drawn 600... Wait a minute. Oh, that the lyricist had drowned 600 years ago from paranoid delusions of river treasure. We have been deceived by the tones, one realized. It is true, said another. The tunes are just so catchy. Then hear my tune, said the grim man, growing grimmer. He stood and belted out a jingle 3 octaves lower than an elven bass clarinet could go. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Bard the Batman. That's what he sang. I'm not going to sing. You already know this. The grim man's name, you see, was Bard the Batman, and the na-na-nas were just a shameless filler. Just then, a golden streak shot down from the river from the north, lighting up the nighttime sky. It's a bird! No, it's a plane. When did we invent planes? Bard shook his head. He climbed into his Bard-mobile and sped off down to the whitewashed home of Richard Nixon. Mr. Nixon in chief, listen to me. Either the dragon is coming, or I'm not sure if it's just some ordinary billionaire. You're not an ordinary billionaire, guessed Nixon obviously. This is no time for backstories. Call our men to arms. Cut the bridge. Nixon leaned back in his swivel chair and placed his feet upon his desk. At the time, it seemed like the pinnacle of power. But as you will soon see, Nixon had a lot to learn about chairs. Riddle me this, Nixon said gruffly. If it's a dragon that can fly, why would I cut the bridge? Well, I have heard of such riddles, and I'm not in the mood for games, Bard grimaced. Bard was never in the mood for games. He was usually in the mood for either brooding or tending to his many bats. If we cut the bridge, then we can't escape, and we would trap ourselves on an island with a dragon and die. Don't overthink it, said Batman, Bardman, whatever, no less grimly than his previous grimness. How does destroying our bridges help us at all? Well, because if we don't destroy our bridge, the dragon will destroy our bridge. Jesus. Nixon immediately understood this perfect logic. Cut the bridge, he roared to his security team. The gossipy service. Suddenly, the warnings trumpeted throughout. Wait a minute. Suddenly, the warning trumpet sounded what? No, staccato. God, I can't read anymore. Oh, the stupidness is hurting my eyes. Suddenly, the warning trumpets sounded 3 staccatos in blue. 1 blow meant rivers running with gold. 2 blows meant somebody acquired a new trumpet, and they were proud of it. 3 meant a public dragon attack, and 4 meant it was going to rain tomorrow. After waiting around a few moments, hoping there would be a 4th blow, everybody fled to their homes, shrieking in anguish as the mighty dragon crooned above them. So apparently he's singing while he's flying around. Puff the magic dragon could grasp reality and was not a delusional dragon and made a normal amount of friends. That doesn't make any sense at all. This dragon's retarded. But dude, he is like totally high. I should have sang it like that. I could go on, dear reader, but I'd rather not make you drop these pages in fright and get to the Barnes & Noble employees. Oh, and get the Barnes & Noble's employees mad at you. That's funny. Because that was, I think, where I found the first ridiculous story that we did. And they all thought I was insane because I was standing there in the aisle laughing my ass off while I was reading through it. That's funny. As Puff swept over the rather forgettable lakes alongside Raketown's storied rake, his fiery puppy dragons honed in on the one and only bridge. He headed down to cross it by foot, recognizing it as your standard symbolic bridge of friendship. But no. Just in the nick of time, the humans blew up their only means of escape, saving themselves from having their bridge destroyed by a dragon. As Bard watched his town come under attack, he was flummoxed by a moral quandary. Time and again, no matter what trouble seemed to strike down upon his beloved Raketown, he was the only one brave enough to stop it. All the other residents were incredibly ignorant and idiotic, and never appreciated his good deeds. Nonetheless, he did what was necessary to protect his town and its irascible mayor. He had only one arbitrary rule: never kill a dragon. Bard, therefore, was terribly uncertain how to respond to the threat of the dragon. He now watched as Puff drove through the ravaged community, laying the land to waste, though it did not cross his mind that grimness would come even more easily if his whole community was burned out of existence. As Puff saw the bridge of friendship crumble to the sea, the poor dragon could think only of his predictably sad youth in the slums of Whittle Earth. It was there that Puff lived with his neglectful parents, 2 perennial underachievers who were dragons for a living. For centuries, the storks were too afraid of the fire-breathing creatures to deliver any babies. And when they did, they often picked rather bad dragons to be parents. What? Oh, there it is. Puff's parents were the most dismal dragons in all of Whittle Earth, isolating Puff from his peers and stunting his development as a socially productive member of the dragon community. There was nothing for Puff to do to pass the days in his dark and lonely cave. but watch reruns of Bay. Oh my God. There was nothing for Puff to do to pass the days in his dark and lonely cave but to watch reruns of Beowulf. An award-winning saga about being a wolf that instilled Puff with his love for mantelpiece trophies. He had been born a wolf. How marvelous a life would have been. Wolves traveled in packs and always had friends at their side. Dragons flew alone, and pretending that the clouds at their side were friendly cumulonimbus. Fucking cloud. Companions only working for long. Whatever. Seeing the humans' refusal to forge the fires of friendship pushed Puff over the edge. He could not help himself. He did as you and I would do, and wept. Honestly, you and I would weep a lot if we lived in Whittle Earth. Sounds like it. A dragon's tears are not like other tears, however. Their happier tears turn into above-average jelly beans. But their saddest tears can light the ground afire. With each tear that trickled down the scales of Puff's face, another idyllic Raketown gated community burst into deadly flames, with all the Lexus SUVs and high-end gas grills exploding in luxurious spectacles. One of these tears happened to land on Nixon's White House, razing the structure instantly. As the building toppled, Nixon fled straight out for a dry portal, desperately hoping to shield himself from any further damage. Some other unnamed people also died, and you should feel sad about that too. Bard saw all of this carnage, but he was unmoved and grim. But when he saw the side mirror of his Bardmobile, But then he saw the side mirror of his Bardmobile. A rogue piece of wood had been flung against it, leaving a mirror but noticeably scratched that would take a good hour and a half to buff out. Jesus. This changed everything for Bard. He climbed into his Bardmobile and threw his morality code out the window, damaging his side mirror even more. He knew what he had to do. Driving 10 miles per hour over the speed limit, he reached the nearest Bardmobile repair shop within minutes. He dropped off his car and waited for the mechanic to put out the fire. It was all over his pants. While Bard waited, he looked around for anything that might help him defeat the dragon. With so much of the town burned, all that was left in the area was an armory, a nuclear bunker, and a time machine. He tried to puzzle out a way to utilize these unutilizable objects. An old Baltimore Ravens linebacker tried to perch himself on Bard's shoulders, and they both instantly toppled to the ground. The Raven extended a hand and helped Bard up from the burning floor. "Huddle up now." They thrust their arms around each other and lowered their heads. "Listen," the Raven said, "you look like you're in a bit of a jam. Whenever me and my team were facing clothes-wearing crying dragons on the field, Coach would call for the old Blue 42. Bard frowned, and since his mouth was the only visible part of his face, it was rather clear now how he was feeling. I don't know that one," he grinned. The Raven pulled the huddle tighter and whispered around the area where he imagined Bard's ear to be underneath his mask. "The old nuclear bunker, armory time machine combo." Bard grinned noddingly. "Break!" the Raven cawed. Break down the barriers of space and time." They exited the huddle and took their stances. Bard sprinted down his route, circling around the nuclear bunker to lure Puff into a false sense of safety and cutting across to the armory to find some guns and such. The armory was all out of guns, but shooting arrow after arrow at the end of Puff's tail, Bard herded the adorable, friendless beast right through the time machine, sending Puff straight into the 1960s folk rock movement. And that's where we get Puff the Magic Dragon. Interesting. There, Puff would live out his days alongside Frito, Spam, and Gulf Oil Barracks. Oh my God. All admittedly dated references that I apologize for. Even Richard Nixon, whose favorite book was the Harvard Lampoon's Board of the Rings, had absolutely no idea what was going on. Oh God, this is painful. The waxing moon was stripped bare of its hair in the twinkling sky. The thick fog smoldered through the hills, mixing with the smoke to create a layer of smog, which, come to think of it, would have been another possible name for a dragon. It wouldn't have been too bad in some sort of parody books. Maybe the dragon's conceit being that he terrorizes towns by emitting a toxic amount of pollution. But that would have made for an entirely different book. That would have sold the exact same number of copies. The debris scattered west toward the marshes of Jerkwood, and between the walls of the Race of Men, if you listened closely, you could hear the whispers of that forest as dusk lumbered toward dawn. "Sucks for you," it said. And so the humans lamented the destruction of their town, though they were pretty pleased the one surviving building was the house that everybody liked. In the heat of the moment, temperatures were still around 120 degrees Fahrenheit. They felt a tremendous sense of loss, which felt a lot like having third-degree burns all over your limbs. But 4 out of 5 residents had survived the chaos, and the fifth that hadn't were largely concentrated in the town's dental school, which was really just asking for trouble with that flammable toothpaste they were developing. Most of their woods remained undamaged, and their pastures too. Of course, the cattle had now seen things, terrible things, so the milk would never taste the same, and the milkman had been incarcerated. Had been incinerated, terribly incinerated, so that no one would ever notice the difference. But the dragon had left for an objectively more groovy time and place, and everybody was just grateful they didn't have to go to any folk rock movements. Oh, God. What's more, the dragon had left the mountain with 0 friends completely unguarded. The humans had not yet realized just what that meant. As I said, they were ignorant and idiotic, and were liable to forget to think about the insides of mountains when their houses were burning down. And there were other matters at hand. Word traveled quickly across town that their Nixon-in-chief had not acted so chiefly in their time of need, though he did act very Nixonly. A virulent mob found him on the shores of the dry portal, stuck to a life vest, calling for Pat to cut him out of the damn thing. Nixon's cocker spaniel, Chess, was chewing on his left pant leg. But now that Puff had gone to a better place, Nixon could practically hear the Oscars acceptance speech awaiting him deep within the mountain. "Hear me now," he said, waving one hand that wasn't caught in his vest. "I am not a crook." "Lies!" cried a townsperson. "If only Bard the Batman—" I thought he was just Bardman. They're changing this shit around. "If only Bard the Batman had not perished in the time machine doohickery. Now there was an honest man, and a brave man, even if he had some troubling mood issues sometimes." It is a shame he died, echoed another. Yes, a real shame, agreed a third. But this third man was no ordinary third man. He stepped behind the podium and pulled off his mask, revealing his bat mask beneath it. It was the Batman. Bard is no longer dead, for I am he, Bard of the line of Grimion. I am the time transporter of the dragon. His story continues, the Rakers cheered. King Batman! King Batman! Oh, God. Nixon could plainly see the public opinion was shifting, and he still didn't know where Pat was with those damn scissors. Come to think of it, he hadn't seen her or any other woman in years. He realized that he was okay with this. Now hold on, Nixon said, and the residents felt instantly inclined to forgive him. But why is it that I'm to blame? Was it I who sent the dragons storming from the mountain down into our homes? I think not. Someone find a measuring stick, and you will see that I am tall enough to ride any roller coaster in Whittle Earth. You know who isn't? Sorkin Shield and his little people. It is they who have wronged us in pursuit of their hoards of gold. Hear, hear, cried the crowd. We have been cheated by the little people. The smallest shadows are the hardest to see. Ah! As you can imagine, that immediately became a proverb. Now I'm the last. Oh, wait a minute. Who is this? I have no idea. I don't know which choice to do, whatever. Now, I am the last person to call Bard the Batman anything other than an ordinary billionaire. I called him such not more than 15 minutes ago. I am as thankful for his service as the rest of you. But Raketown has no king, and I am your elected leader. Oh, this is Nixon. Moments like this are what we ratified a constitution for. And populist anger like this is why I never let you read it. The line of Grimion were the lords of Fale, not Raketown, which really stinks for you. Fale was a destroyed town in Moblin territory that everyone once had high hopes for. It was widely accepted now as a pretty big fail. Fools, said Batman. The little people did not cheat us. They were likely the first victims when Puff descended the mountain. Friendship is not a victimless crime. The residents nodded solemnly. They did not understand what that meant, but it was probably another famous proverb. I am with you, Richard Nixon, said Bard. United we stand, divided stand too far apart to hear each other and work efficiently as a team. Excuse me. Oh. They would have to workshop that one before it became a proverb. Nonetheless, cried a townsperson, you have wronged us, and you have lied to your town, Mr. Nixon. As such, we have no choice but to beseech you. We beseech you to be an honest man. Everyone agreed that this was the best course of action, so Nixon was thenceforth beseeched by his people. Having taken part in such a momentous political act, the citizens of Raketown applauded and hugged one another. The nimble-handed managed both at once. Then they looked upon the mountain in the distance, and the distance into the further distance, and the horizon at distance's end. It was so far just then, and yet, well, you should flip the page because you'll be surprised. The crowd dispersed to gather arms and prepare for the fight ahead, singing once more of the Golden River. It was once again a real possibility. Nixon raised his hands above his head and held out 2 fingers on each. He descended the podium stairs. It instantly became a proverb. Ugh. that's the end of chapter 10. All right. I'm going to read some of these, and then we're going to take a little break, and I'm going to bang my head against the wall until the pain clears. All right, so let's see, where are we? Laura Thomas. Hey, you. Suzanne. Hello. Wait a minute. What? Wait a minute. Are you saying happy birthday to Gutters? Is it Gutters? Wait a minute. I thought Gutters' birthday was the other day. What's going on? Where am I? All right, whatever. To whomever it applies, happy frickin' birthday. Not the no-named no-nos. Yeah, I know, right? Oh my God, that was so funny. I have no idea why that was so funny. Damn. The tears were real on that one. Better stop what you say. I was so worried he would say nipples after batteries and jumper cables. I was getting a little nipply. All right. So I really haven't missed much else. Okay. I'm going to put you all on a break. I'm going to have a bio break. I'm going to drink something and bang my head against the wall a few times. That should make the rest of this go a little more smoothly. And then we'll pick up on chapter 11. God help us all. All right. So, if everybody is ready, don't forget to put your helmet on. Yeah. I don't think that's going to help. I hate my brother. That's so funny that still throws people off. All right. Chapter 11. But back to Billy and the little people. This story is not named Richard Nixon and Also a Dragon, though that probably would have sold major copies. After pulling an all-nighter, watching 40 years' worth of Academy Awards opening monologues, they still had no information about threats on the horizon, or what the difference was between sound editing and sound mixing. There were many birds warming up outside the mountain, a startling array that spanned the spectrum from hawks to seahawks, as the 2004 Baltimore Ravens roved between. "Why are there so many birds?" asked Sorkin Shield, in an annoyed voice that demonstrated just how many birds there were. "What is this? A lecture on symbolism and Shakespeare? A Hitchcock movie? The sky?" Before any of the little people could prove him right, Billy leapt to his wobbling feet. "It's Kyle Bowler, the Ravens' starting quarterback." Oh, God. So ridiculous. The little people were dumbfounded by the Raven's grace under pressure, not to mention his glistening hair. Never before had they seen someone who could run a mile in an amount of time worth measuring. Yes, he looked like a man who could lift twice as much as Beefer and Buffer, while listening to half as much as... What? They missed out on some words here. I'll have to put in my own. While listening to half as much imaginary dragons, I guess. "Better run the button hook again," Bowler said to his receivers. He looked up the mountainside, a draconian canvas pocked with magma pits and littered with skulls. It's places like this that remind you the whole world is really a nicer place outside of Baltimore. Yeah, I can see that. For over an hour, the team practiced their hearts out, but it just wasn't coming together. There was palpable frustration as Beefer and Buffer jostled for autographs. Finally, the Ravens took a Waterade. Okay. Finally, the Ravens took a Waterade break near the little people. "Here's what's going to happen," he said. Oh, said Coach Brian Billick, a brave warrior, though certainly no Andy Reid. Cordo, we need you to go faster. Did you stop puffing the magic dragon? I did, Coach, said Cordell, whatever. They stopped the dragon, misinterpreted Billy, and the little people rejoiced. Many a chest was bumped that day. Shush, shushed Billy. I need to hear what they're saying. And that's why they're going to try to surround us, screamed Billick. His linemen were not amused. This is our house, and they're coming for it. They won't be afraid to grab these precious stones. His hands rested confidently on his waist. They're going to surround us. They're coming for the treasure, Billy mistranslated, and the little people were terrified. Many a pair of pants was soiled that day. Feely and Kiwi were rather confused by all the football, but a cricket metaphor put the situation into proper context for Feely and Kiwi, and they had found some crickets earlier that he was happily eating. What? Whatever. Alas, the ravens stormed away to run some sprints, and Billy and the little people were left alone again to speculate about the past and the future, and whether there were any more time machines lying around that could mess with either of those. Then the lights dimmed. What? Hold on. It jumped on me. Then the lights dimmed, and the music grew slow and dramatic. Sorkenshield began to speak. Aye, look at us, a bunch of little people stuck far away from home, barely capable of walking here or there. Schooner, surrounded by humans unsure of ourselves and our sexualities. What? Okay. The little people nodded their heads, glad someone had finally said it. Who's this? No. But we are sure of some things, like that Feely and Kiwi are 99% sure of their DNA. Now that we are here... Wait a minute, what? Now what are we here to do, you ask? Well, would you mind? Oh, none of this makes any sense. Doc stopped, struggling to bandage the bleeding hand he had just injured doing cartwheels during the Ravens' practice. If you've ever tried to bandage one hand, with nothing but your other hand to do it, you know he looked hilarious. We're here to keep this treasure, Sorkenshield began again. We didn't come all this way home to be poor, and we're already come home. What? All that's left is to sit here for as long as it takes for everybody to get tired and leave. Now, who's with me? Beaver started a slow clap, and the others joined in, but it never sped up because they had literally been walking for months and were instantly tired. I think we should talk this through first, said Billy. Sorkenshield gestured toward the talking corridor. He'd been lacking a talking corridor the entire YOLO, but now that they were back on Little People terrain, there was at last one at hand. Together, he and Billy entered the figure-8-shaped hallway, which enabled them to walk and talk forever, or until the camera ran out of film. Look at me face, snapped Sorkenshield. Listen, Billy started. Don't be ridiculous. But does the great man settle for good? I'm just saying. Saying what? Maybe we could. Could what? Arg. Don't get cute with me. On. Whatever. Listen, kid, I have 2 degrees from Harvard, 1 from Stanford, and double doctorates from Oxford. I even have a master's degree and listening degrees from the Yale School of Dramatic Drama. What? Do I think it's going to work? Wait, you bet your ass I do. None of this makes any sense. Why am I still talking like this? Sorkenshield exited the talking corridor, and the little people cheered. They vowed to work harder than they ever had at sitting in one place. But even though the Wobbits were perhaps Whittle Earth's foremost experts in sitting, Billy did not share the little people's enthusiasm. He had an uneasy feeling in his gut, and he didn't think it was because of those video music awards he'd eaten earlier. The others began barricading the mountain with zero friends, blocking it off from all outside contact. They were mostly just going through the motions, since everybody knew you didn't need to do much to keep people away from the mountain with zero friends. Billy checked his phone, and after laughing at some of the uproarious tweets from his favorite Twitter account, at Harvard Lampoon, read a tweet from one of the Ravens. It appeared that soon they would have reinforcements. Sorkin Shield's more sociopathic cousin, Bane, was coming with an army. Bane's little people came from a dark, cruel land, where all were trapped in a pit from which the only means of escape was climbing out. Okay. This made the little people more confident, which meant only one thing. It was time to burst into a jazzy rap about their dear leader. And again, I'm not going to sing. Do what? Redressing the BC's wounds took forever. What? Okay. All right, here's the song. Inside the mountain we do fit, though barely, when we squeeze a bit. With Sorkin Shield, our thighs congealed. Until they leave, here we will sit. He is a mighty leader when, with parable and wit and keen, sly jokes he cracks and heads he smacks. His Nielsen ratings close to 10. It hasn't always been this way. Once laugh tracks ruled and steered the day. But buddy cops and slapstick flops won't match when he has words to say. Our Sorkin Shield will have his fun, but someday sagas must be done. Yes, what to do when things are through. He starts again at Season 1. His stories tell of of gall and guts, of presidents and kings he tuts. Until they fold and leave the gold, we'll stay here with him on our butts. But has his saga heard its knell, though unforeseen till time does tell? We'll never balk at walk and talk, and hearing politicians yell. Inside the mountain we do fit, though barely, when we squeeze a bit. With Sorkin Shield our thighs congealed. Until they leave, here we will sit. Oh my God. The repeated refrain at the end was probably unnecessary, and Billy wasn't so sure of Sorkin Shield's plan. He felt it relied rather heavily on monologues and finishing other people's sentences, but he waited with the rest of them until the next day. Then, sure enough, something else happened. From over the horizon came a flood of humans of every shape and size, though most of them were roughly human size. It turns out that these humans were on their way to a fantasy convention where they would play make-believe as people in another universe. It was called Comic-Con because they would obsess over the most mundane details of life in an alternate reality, like how to properly use the Oxford comma and how not to badly split infinitives. They played at being actuaries and pediatricians instead of the usual boring archers and blacksmiths they had been in real life. They had vivid and grotesque fantasies about paying a graduated income tax. Then came the next wave of humans, and it is this wave with which our YOLO is concerned. These humans did not have the leisure of getting to attend any fantasy conventions as traveling salesmen. They'd all been shafted with tedious day jobs where they fought to their death for honor and glory and revenge. Forward stepped the commander of their forces, though carefully so as not to reveal his front side. Then he swirled around, sending his cape aflutter, and everyone gasped. "Bard the Batman!" cried Sorkenshield. "No," Bard said grimly. "I am just an ordinary billionaire. I drive a very normal person car. It is called a Honda Civic. I know that my girlfriend loves me for my money and not for my superpowers. But today I am here because I want you to surrender this mountain." And so the two began an exchange of informal dialogue. "I cannot do that," said Sorkenshield. "You can too," argued Bard. "Cannot." "Can too." "Cannot." All the little people sat as heartily as they possibly could. The resolve would be inspiration for generations to come. It was as if they had been born for this, or in Doc's case, stillborn for this. "All right," said Bard, walking back to his Honda Civic. Everyone waited in suspense. "What now?" asked Billy. "I don't know," said Sorkenshield. "I've never ended anything on a cliff." Later, the little people grew tired from all of the sitting and came to the conclusion it was time to lie down. They agreed to take turns guarding their food supply. Billy and Doc went first because nobody liked either of them. Everyone else got out their blankies and adorable little person nightcaps and went to sleep. How was the poor Wobbit ever going to get home at this rate? Sitting got them nowhere. He couldn't die in this mountain. Perhaps another mountain on another day, but this one would make for the most awkward eternity ever. He had to act, and I mean really act, not just string together a bunch of overworded retorts. "Hey, Doc, how could you stare uninterrupted at that wall for about 5 hours?" asked Billy. Wouldn't be the first time, chuckled Doc. "Great," said Billy. "It's for no particular reason." As Doc privately celebrated his very first words of the book, Billy smuggled the Arkenstone into one of his kangaroo pouches and slipped on the anklet, transforming into a 48-foot-per-second nausea-inducing blunder. He slid through an an emotional crack in the mountain with zero friends, a weakness for rhubarb pie, like its mother used to make, and landed on a conveniently placed trampoline, where he bounced for the better part of an hour. Oh my God, so much of this. After he broke the trampoline, he sneaked past the guards of the opposing forces. They were followers of the Ovis King and were naturally too busy arguing about where they should have their bodies signed to notice another body entering the fray. But after spotting the nearby stream, the Wobbit could not help but splash around and try to rid himself of the mountain stench. "Wait a minute," said an elven fangirl. "The water flying through the air for no particular reason is giving me a headache." They realized somebody was in the water, and they took to him like their idol took to fame-induced depression. They hauled Billy to captivity, needing a full harem to carry him through the swamp. The Wobbit did not put up a fight. He only asked for soap. When they set him down in a makeshift tent, He updated his list of requests. I am Billy Bagboy, companion of Aaron Sorkinshield, and I wish to speak to your king. The elven fangirls wondered how exactly this massive, doughy fellow could possibly be a companion of a little person. But some of the wobbits more charismatic fat globules reminded them of the Elvis king's fat globules, so they took him to where the king held the court. Bard the Batman was, thankfully, also there, because Billy was doubtful that the Elvis king could use his mouth to make words these days. What do you want? Asked Bard in a tone so low that only nearby dolphins could hear it. The expert and his clan rear their heads again. I'm here to try and make peace. That's big talk from a little man, Bard answered in a booming bass that reset all of the cell phones in the room. The Elvis king gently grated his lips. Well, I mean it, said Billy, instinctively lowering the pitch of his own voice. The Elvis king's grated face. Wait a minute. Not grated face. Idiot. The Elvis king grated faster, with more bravado, and in a way that implied the beginning of the end of a racially segregated society. Here, said Billy, pulling out the Arkenstone. Sorkinshield values this very much, and I'm sure he'd listen to you if you had it to bargain with. The Elvis king and Bard marveled at the magnificent gem, resplendent in its gritty authenticity and likable personality. Why would you do this? Asked Bard, looking at the night sky. The Elvis king played a blues-influenced chord progression on his acoustic guitar while puckering his lips. Billy shrugged. He was simply ready for his YOLO to be over, even if he'd only do it once. I cannot thank you enough, said Bard in a voice low and grim enough to cause hairline fractures in the teeth of everyone in the room. But once is enough for now. I really appreciate it, Billy started. But he turned around to find that Bard and the Elvis king had both disappeared, even though they were on a platform in the middle of an empty field. He kicked himself for having spoken to them, facing the wrong direction in the first place, and ventured off toward the shining light of the humans' capital. Hours later, Billy arrived at the Coliseum of Representatives, just as Congress was being called into session. It was a marvelous building filled with peanut vendors and spilt beer. Billy watched as Richard Nixon banged his gavel for 45 consecutive minutes. Eventually, the red team and the blue team stopped yelling at each other, and the last air horn was silenced. Who's this? Oh, I don't know. All right. The first order of business is peace with the little people. The air horns resumed, and a call and response of what? Vuvuzelas? I don't know, something, began inside the stadium. It was not long before an elderly member of the blue team had to be rushed out on a gurney and everyone settled down. We'll open up the floor, declared Nixon. The trapdoor built into the speaking floor swung wide open, revealing a goodly number of alligators. I recognize the congressman from East Ohio. And so it began. Gentlemen, I'll be bamboozled if we can't at least talk peace with our own little people here. Peace? With those small bearded bumpkins, chimed in a red... What? Penny? Whatever. Yells from all sides. Yells came from all sides. Why are they so little? What is this Arkenstone anyhow? To the gentleman from East Ohio, I say this. My people want peace of mind. They want a piece of the pie. We need a pie that everyone can have a slice of. An equal slice. Even little people. The size of the slice. Oh my God, this is becoming numbingly retarded. Oh, I'm having a hard time. Oh God. It's almost over. The size of the slice, my friends and colleagues, is immaterial to the matter at hand. What, pray tell, about the quality? My country. What? Something city. Togham City? Thogham. Whatever, some city. Has the best pizza in all of Whittle Earth, and I wouldn't swap my own mother for any other slice. Well, if it's a pizza pie, who gets to have a say in the toppings? I like mushroom, but maybe the gentleman from Missouri don't like the mushrooms. Maybe he wants Hawaiian. Pepperoni is good. Well, shoot, let's get pepperoni. Okay, maybe pepperoni. 2 cheese, is that enough? Throw in 1 veggie, maybe. No. Every time we order that, nobody winds up eating it. How about peppers and onions? Fine, I'm dialing. 2 cheese, 2 pepperoni, 1 peppers and onions. Hold on. Do we want mozzarella sticks? I love some mozzarella sticks. All right. Hi, is this Pizza Hovel? Yes, we'd like 5 pizzas. 2 cheese, 2 pepperoni, 1 peppers and onions, and an order of mozzarella sticks, and plates and napkins. 25 minutes? Okay, thanks. This sounds like a political gathering. None of it makes any sense. The congressman paused for a moment of silence. Then they went back to the difficult and slow work of hammering out a workable piece of legislation. You're right. An hour later, they had not even mentioned the peace treaty. Billy grabbed 10 or so slices of pepperoni to go and sneaked back toward the mountain with 0 friends. Suddenly, from behind a rock, out wandered Dumbledaff.
Oh, look at you, Harry. Hardly a boy, hardly a man.
I'm 50 years old, said Billy.
You have to be careful. Necromotes. Oh, you have to be careful of necromotes.
Dumbledaff warned him.
And also of Filipinos.
All right then, said Billy, stepping away.
Touch my... Oh. Touch my head, boy,
Dumbledaff whispered.
Take my secrets.
Oh my God. And that was the painful end of chapter 11.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
I'm going to take a drink and wash this all down. And then we'll go on to chapter 12. Oh, well, at least several of you are still hanging on. What have I missed? Okay. Yeah. Hold on just a second here. All right. Chapter 12. The next day, the shin. Oh my God. The next day, the wind shifted west, and we all know what that means. Meanwhile, the lands below the mountain with 0 friends filled with forces upon forces, racking up more friend requests in a matter of hours than the mountain had ever known. Worried about appearing desperate, the mountain played it coy, leaving all requests pending, so nobody was quite sure of who was friend with whom. Then Bane at last arrived, come to the aid of the little people, brother-in-arms to Sorkinshield, and a cousin in genetics, because of a drunken and regretful night Bane's granduncle had with Sorkinshield's oldest aunt. Bard the Batman would not let Bane pass around the eastern bend. East was one of the 4 directions. No shit. And goodness knows, you have to remember them at all. What? Billy marched forth with Bard to speak with Bane to see if there could be a peace that might prevent the need for any sequels. Let's hope. "From whence do you come?" asked the Batman in his deep bass and grim as ever. "I am Bane, son of Inane, son of Pain," said Bane. Son of Inane, son of Pain. Oh, God. He spoke grimly with a pitch deep enough to ruin a baby's whole day. "We are hastening to my kinsman in the mountain. We have sent word." It jumped again. Where am I? We have sent word of casting calls for gritty thrillers to set on stage of a sports news show. Why do you stand here as though you wish to kill me? It was the polite thing to say in such a situation, though it really meant, why do you stand here? We stand here defending morality, said the Batman more grimly and deeply than ever before. Is that so? Said Bane, one-upping the Batman in grim lowering of his voice. It is so, said Batman, going down the grimmest of octaves. Up by the mountain, Doc was having more aneurysms than usual. So, reiterated Bane, flexing his grim vocal cords as wide as they could vibrate, struggling to utter the word. So, the Batman echoed, grunting with grimaces so low that no one could be sure he even said anything. Dead birds began falling from the sky. Countered Bane, going grimmer and deeper than any Whittle Earth had ever gone before. Arr, went the Batman, his voice cracking with a grimness so deep it set fire to most of the little people's hair. Oh my God, this is ridiculous. This would be Gutter Pub's wet dream right here. And so it came to pass that neither could produce another audible sound. The two great leaders had no choice but to stare at each other. And down their tongues, to stare each other down with their tongues hanging out and their mouths wide open. There was no getting around it. A fight was at hand, and at the YOLO's climax, due to the definition of the word, climax. Each side prepared their forces, making sure to give their warriors one final lesson on how to miss all with their arrows until they were the very last one. Ugh. Yet, just as the CG effects were about to get nifty, a swirling darkness came over the sky above.
Halt! Cried Dumbledore. Brooms swarm in the sky.
Elves and little people alike stopped in their tracks and watched with great confusion. Those are just bats, said Bard the Batman, grimly relieved. I was wondering where I'd left them. Alas, they bring word of a moblin attack. They come upon wargies to possibly avenge the possible death of Tony Moblin.
Come, everyone, said Dumbledore. A wizarding tournament. I am a wizard.
He laughed heartily, then grew incredibly sad.
Do you come now, or wait a minute. Do you come now, or we shall all die immediately?
And so the Batman and Bane and Billy and everybody else I haven't bothered to describe in proper detail gathered around, and hence were drawn the lines in the battle of the five armies. It was the Moblins and Wargies on one side, and then also the elves and the little people and the humans. 5 armies. 5-ish armies. Close enough. And so, at once, all 5 forces charged forth into battle.
Halt!
Dumbledaff cried, and all 5 armies promptly stopped. "What is it now?" asked Batman.
We have company.
It was not a lie, it was true. Out from around the Ravens' locker room marched 5 more armies, each of them boasting another king. Billy looked upon them, exhausted by the growing number of enemies he'd need to keep an eye on. He wasn't equipped to count more than 5 of anything, except food, which he counted in units of a lot of food. "But who could they be?" asked the Wobbits. "I thought everyone was already here."
Name yourselves,
yelled Dumbledaff in the entirely wrong direction.
I, for one, am a wizard. A uni-wizard.
He giggled, then cried, then turned his hat backward and insisted on being called Lily. Jesus.
Oh.
The 5 kings approached and pushing and shoving their way to the front. Due to a lack of desirable cable options in Wobotabad, Billy did not have HBO and therefore did not recognize the 5 advancing kings. I'm assuming that would be, Game of Thrones? Of course, as you have likely guessed by now, they were the 5 final contestants in the highly competitive game of musical chairs. Yeah. "I am Lord Joffrey whatever," said the douchiest one. "Lord of the 7 kingdoms." "I am Lord Standin Bloodbathen," said the grumpiest. "Lord of the 7 kingdoms." "I am Lord Blood whatever," said the most effeminate one. "Lord of the 7 kingdoms." "I am Lord Heartthrob, star-crossed," said the one who seemed least likely to die. "King of the North." "I am Balin Theonboy," said the one who would be having no grandchildren anytime soon. "King of the North and Iron Islands." Oh my God, this is so ridiculous. The 5 kings walked to the fore, coming face to face with the other 5 kings, who were all understandably annoyed because they had already ordered their "I survived the battle of 5 armies and all I got was this lousy shirts. Billy raised his hand. When no one called on him, he did not speak. "What brings you to our battle?" asked Batman. "We were just about to begin, and anyway, we've reached a maximum capacity." Which one was this one? I don't know who's who anymore. "How dare you speak so grimly to the Lord of 7 Kingdoms?" said the first 3 in unison. The original 5 leaders glanced at each other, confounded. "How many kingdoms do we have exactly?" asked Billy at last, speaking the thought everyone else had in their mind. Don't we have 4? We got, this is the Waggering Elvis. Okay, this is the Elvis King. Oh my God, I can't do an Elvis.
We got 4 kingdoms. We got 4 skins.
What? Whatever, waggered the Elvis King. Okay, said Billy. So we have the Elven Lands, Jerkwood, the mountain with 0 friends, and the mountain whose peaks are concealed by gathering precipitation around their summits. Impossible, argued Bard. I am the rightful heir to Thale, land of my fathers, so that's at least 5. And surely the north has been unaccounted for, Bane pointed out. Do you think those 10 million bats came from my house? They did not come from my house. And Raketown, of course, put in Nixon, who had been inexplicably re-elected in a landslide. So perhaps it is in fact 7. Well, then it is 14, corrected Heartthrob star-crossed. Your 7, and our 7.
What do you mean?
Asked Dumbledaff coincidentally at a... Wait a minute. Yeah, coincidentally at a suitable moment. Joy-free Bathian was quickly growing bored. He hadn't killed any prostitutes in this scene.
Is this not the North?
Well, of course it's the North, said Richard Nixon.
Ain't nothing to the north,
added the Elvis King. Oh my God. I'm going to go insane from these voices. That's all I can cram in my head. Then we are in the right place. The North is one of our kingdoms. But the North is one of our kingdoms, asserted Bane. Well then, said Heartthrob Starcrossed, it appears we all have a kingdom in common. I will live for a long, long time. So it is 13 kingdoms in all then, said Billy. 6 to each of us and 1 in common. But what are the lot of you even fighting for? The pointy chair, of course, said stand-in Bluff Bathian. The shoulders of the original 5 leaders were growing sore from all of the shrugging. Never before had they heard of any pointy chair, not even in the songs of lore or the top 40 songs of catchy topical lore. And just what is this pointy chair? Asked Richard Nixon, activating a tape recorder in his suit. You know, said Joyfree. It's the pointy chair. The chair everyone wants to sit in. That sounds uncomfortable, admitted Billy. The kings of the other 7 kingdoms eyed each other. But no, said Stand-in. The pointy chair is like the best chair. I mean, literally, the best. Sounds like it hurts, said Billy. Generations later, the song would sing of his fierceness and courage, but really he was just calling it like he saw it.
You don't understand, cut in Joyfree. It's a chair built from the swords of all the kings who died from sitting on it. It's, like, totally awesome.
Oh, said the Batman. That does sound kind of awesome. He muttered grimly. I'm in, said Bane. Let's go to war for that. Richard Nixon could not believe what he was hearing. But what of the Oscars and Golden Globes piled up in the mountain of 0 friends? Who's this? Oh, aye, you don't get to 0 friends without making a few enemies, shouted Sorkin Shield from the mountain's front gate. He was beginning to fear they had forgotten he might have something important to say. Forget about the... Wait a minute, who's this? Oh, forget about some trophies put above your fireplace, said manly Bloodbathian. Imagine looking at the fireplace from the comfort of your pointy chair.
I like him the best, whispered Dumbledaff to one of his own freckles.
It appeared then and there that there was nothing left to discuss. The pointy chair was worth dying for. "So we're all in agreement," said Billy. "The battle of 5 armies shall hereby be the battle of 10 armies?"
"It's the battle of 5 armies?" cried Joffrey. "This is the war of 5 kings. If you very well must, and we shall make it." Wait a minute, what? What did he say? "We shall make it to the war of 10 kings. I don't know anymore."
"Now just a minute," interjected Bane. "I signed up for a battle, not a war."
"Halt,"
screeched Dumbledore. "Now what?" rang a chorus of self-important inbred male voices. Oh my God. I'm gonna have nightmares again tonight. I can already feel it. Oh, the voices. But lo and behold, their question was answered on the horizon, for marching in from the south, the one direction that everyone had forgotten about, yet another 5 rulers, and you'll never believe this, with another 5 armies.
"Name yourselves," ordered Dumbledore. "My name is Wizard."
"I am J.R.R. Tolkien," said the oldest. "I am your creator." "I am G.R.R. Marauding," said the one most likely to die before finishing his incredibly ambitious book series. "Also, your creator."
I am J.K. Rowling," said the most effeminate, "and I am somehow wrapped up in this."
"I am C.S. Losing," said the other one who had no business being here. "And I created things similar to this, which should be a part of the conversation." "I am T.H. Lampoon," said the definitively best one. "And I just wanted to point out that for the last time that you can order our magazine online. Follow us on Twitter, or, if you feel like it, both." Behind them stood armies, millions and millions strong, comprised of their most loyal followers gathered up from all the lands. Their ranks stretched on for countless miles, spanning the length of Jerkwood and the forest of metaphorical importance, and dropping off into the vast unknown. They were a noble race, descendants of literates, which certainly impressed Billy, who was a descendant of those who looked quizzically at microwave timers. With all these armies, things were getting out of hand. Some warriors even went so far as to count themselves members of multiple armies, which, come on, that was just kind of a dick move. A dragon could claim itself a member of 3 of the armies, and a wizard, due to the magical laws of Middle-earth, had to pick his least favorite 4. It was all quite confusing. One minute a lion was a literal lion, and the next he was presumed to be just a metaphorical lion. "And what is it all of you want?" asked Richard Nixon. "It is simple, really," said J.R.R. Tolkien, drawing a long puff from his pipe. Token. As in token. "We want our characters back." "What for?" "To kill them," explained G.R.R. Marauding. "This whole book, or whatever you... Wait a minute, who is this? Oh. "This whole book, or whatever you have, is really butchering our masterfully crafted characters," clarified J.K. Rowling. "So the least we can do is kill them now, and spare them the humiliation of having to finish things up in some college humor magazine's idea of a fantasy story." Who is this idiot? "Oh, did you think now I'm a devout Catholic?" asked C.S. Losing, feeling a little left out of the fun. "Oh, my God." "Look," said Billy, All this talk about death reminded him of dead animals, which reminded him of eating dead animals. We've already capped this at 10 armies. I'm sorry, but you've come too late. I do not wish to be rude, but you must respect that there is no room left for you. Nonsense, scoffed J.R.R. Tolkien, and he proceeded to blow a smoke ring that wrapped itself around all existence. I built these lands myself, using an incredibly unnecessary amount of words. If I say so, there is certainly room for us to fight on them. All right, who's this? I had no idea. Oh, the Wobbit. Oh, okay. This is Billy. So what shall we call this? Huffed the Wobbit impatiently. The army battle of 15 warring kings? Not so fast, said J.K. rousing. She raised a hand to the back of her head and whipped off her ponytail bun. She's a woman! Every single person on the battlefield gasped in disbelief. This might go against my Catholic faith. C.S. Losing let it be known, as if anyone cared what he said. Then let it be settled once and for all, Billy beckoned. This shall henceforth be known as the army battle of the 14 warring kings and 1 warring queen, and we shall fight for copyright laws, Academy Awards, and pointy chairs. Can we all now be in agreement? Please? Halt! Bellowed Dumbledaff. Many tossed down their murder weapons to the ground in anger. They followed his gaze towards the west. Oh my God. I think I'm just going to sit in the corner and chew on my toenails after this. And then sit in the dark, in the corner of my shower, and cry. They followed his gaze towards the west. It had been so long since they'd thought about about the west they had forgotten all about. Though a shrewd preteen reader would have remembered that the west was the direction the wind was blowing. And everyone knew what that meant. I have no fucking clue anymore. 20 more armies crested the western hill, asking about this awesome chair they'd heard about. They brought word that they had been sent invitations to all their friends. That they had sent invitations to all their friends, and another 16 armies were probably on their way. And all the present armies should just sit tight. They, of course, argued some more about whether everyone should should begin on the battlefield, as it was becoming increasingly unclear where to have the artists draw the dotted lines. Oh my God. Sorkenshield insisted there be time for war speeches, and the Elvis King riled up even more emotions with a few chords from his baby grand piano. Once everybody showed up, they decided to cap the thing at 50 armies, because at least the round number would look nice on the participation trophies they'd all be getting afterwards. Hail! Shut up, Hitler! Cried everyone in unison, and Hitler went trudging home, sadly, dragging his army of very nice paintings behind him. Now, once and for all, the fight finally began. Jesus. Thank goodness, said Billy. He slipped on his anklet and raised his fists, ready to start his first war battle. Oh, God. To ensure there would be no pause to the festivities this time around, the Elvis King produced a bugle to signal the start of the slaughter. He played a dainty tune that put all into their proper mood, and turned to retreat to the safety of the traveling elven orchestra pit. But of course, he did not see Billy standing beside him, nervously wobbling in nauseatingly enhanced motions. The tip of the bugle's horn struck Billy straight upon the forehead, and in due course did Billy strike the ground. That was the last of the first war battle that Billy ever saw. That is the painful conclusion of Chapter 12. Wow. All right. So Iron Rabbit was at least listening comfortably from bed. I'm sure that diatribe has put her fast asleep. And for anyone else who has, well, I'm here. Oh, not yet. Okay. Very well. We shall carry on with Chapter 13 here shortly. I will get a drink of water or something. I told you this was going to be painful. They seriously think somehow I'm supposed to come up with all those voices. I just keep track of everything. It's bad enough with the ones I've got bouncing between my ears right now. All right, so this is going to be Chapter 13 here in a minute. Oh, wait a minute. Is this... Oh, glory be. 'Tis the last chapter. We will have made it. The hunger pains. Fuck no. All right. We're done with this one after this. I don't even want to see that. No one get any ideas. All right. We're going to take a minute. We can all take a deep breath. Gather our strength for the final push. It's going to pinch a little. All right. Yes. Your cat's purring. That is so funny that your cat apparently likes the sun. I don't know why that is. You have a very strange cat, Rabbit. Most animals just look at me like I'm weird. My dog just treats me like shit. I'm there merely to feed him and bathe him and clip his nails and shave his ass. And outside of that, well, he just really has no use for me outside of, well, shitting right in front of my shop door. He enjoys leaving landmines for me to find. I was trying to spray today, and yeah, I just kept tripping his little mines left and right. I'm sure he thought it was hilarious. Ozzy, like, oh yeah, your cat, Ozzy. Oh, okay, well, that's cool. Well, at least I have, I think, well, I don't know. I think it's working on your guys' end. It seems to be working. So now I've got the, crap. What is it? What the hell is that thing called? I have notes. My, limiter. That's what it is. My limiter. My limiter set, so that when I do yell or whatever, it only goes to a certain level, so it should probably not freak them out. All right. We shall push forth. Now, here's the thing. remembering that previous story. We're going to have to do that another night. Because we will be at 2.5 hours when we finish, well, close to it, when we finish this one. Actually over. So, we'll just have to pick up that other story another time because all this stupidity just fries my brain. Okay. Let's see here. All right. The final push. The last chapter. Chapter 13. When Billy finally came to, the battlefield looked much different. Gone were the gathering armies and vaguely operatic underscoring. Tired-looking men in black headphones and worn-out sweatshirts were taking down the lights as dead bodies helped each other up and headed for the craft services table. One such gruesomely slaughtered young moblin was struggling mightily to lift to lift up our Wobbit's leg, and sweating so much in the process that the gash on his forehead was beginning to melt off. Victory after all, I suppose, Billy said, trying to piece together what was going on. Well, it seems a very gloomy business. Whoa, said the moblin, jumping back in surprise. Sorry, man. I totally thought you were a prop. It is me, Billy Bagboy, companion of Aaron Sorkinshield. I was just looking for me phone. Excuse me. I have a nasty knock on the head, I think. But I have a helm and a hard skull. And all the same, I feel sick, and my legs are like straw. Right. Okay. Do you think you could call it in? It's on vibrate, which I know is a total pain in the ass right now. But honestly, who wants to hear a ringtone anymore? I mean, it's 2013. Oh, God, whatever. Billy was getting more and more confused by the moment, and he decided he did not much like this dead moblin. He swallowed the phone he had been chewing on and went to find more familiar faces. As he walked, he saw many strange things. A little person was making out with an elf in the bushes, and 2 trolls were trying to sneak away as many swords and pieces of armor as possible so they could sell them online. And to other sad little trolls at home. The Philadelphia Eagles were all gathered around Brian Westbrook's laptop. What? Laptop? See, when dyslexia starts setting in. Around Brian Westbrook's laptop, watching Orange is the New Black, and an energetic, unshaven New Zealander was hunched over a copy of The Similarian, trying to figure out how many movies he could split it up into. Oh, The Similarian, whatever. Finally, The Pied Piper of Pets. I don't know what it is. Split up into. Finally, Billy began to find himself in more normal territories. Lights snapped on and camera angles shifted so that the little people once again appeared little, and women and minorities once again did not appear in positions of power or meaningful agency. Finally, he came upon Dumbledaff outside a tent in Fale, and everything clicked back into the right kind of complete nonsense. Dementia, cried Dumbledaff, smacking Billy across the face with a dead pigeon. It's just me, Billy. That clarified things for Dumbledaff, and a smile broke out across the old man's face as he recognized Billy and ran to embrace him. He was a very great wizard, and an even better hugger, and even now, it is the only time in all of Whittle Earth lore that anyone has successfully wrapped their arms completely around a wobbit. Legend has it that Billy's heart grew 3 sizes that day, which was a full size larger than the 2 sizes Billy's heart grew every other day.
"The boy who is alive,"
exclaimed Dumbledore.
"That is so much better than what I was calling you before. The boy who was here a few minutes ago. What's his name? The one with the thing on his face."
Jesus. Billy told Dumbledore that he was glad to see him too, and inquired as to the rest of their party. At this, Dumbledore grew suddenly serious. He put his pants back on and led Billy into the tent. There lay Aaron Sorgenshield, paler than Billy had ever seen him. During the battle, he had eaten some strange mushrooms, and mistaking a battalion of especially old white trolls for angry Republicans, had thrown himself off the mountain with 0 friends. He had hit rock bottom, bounced a few times, and landed next to a pool of self-reflection. Oh, this is so painful. Now, all his various bags of writing powders and inspiration rocks lay open and empty on the floor around him. He trembled in his bed, with his eyes closed. When Billy entered, he opened them and smiled faintly.
"Farewell, good Wobbit,"
he said.
"I go now to the halls of sobriety, to sit beside my brothers, in suffering in a little circle, until the world is renewed, or at least until 26 days have passed. I wish to part in friendship from you, and also I will soon be required to make amends. So let me say this. There is more in you of good than you know, and I don't just mean all the Mr. Goodbars I know you've stolen from my pack. If more of us valued food above hoarded gold, and fancy clothing, and social standing, and the ability to stand, walk, or live past middle age, it would be a merrier world."
"Thank you, Aaron Sorkenshield," said Billy, tears welling up in his eyes. The silence was a little awkward since the orchestra had gone home. Sorkenshield took his hand, and the 2 travelers smiled at each other. Then Sorkenshield cleared his throat.
"And?"
he prompted. "And?" The little person gestured to himself meaningfully. Billy laughed, glad to see that his friend had not changed too much. Wait a minute. What? Oh, okay.
"And I'm sorry to see you go, with or without your..."
And I'm sorry to see you go, he said, "with or without your powder and your rocks, and your occasionally redundant tropes. You are a truly great writer. As far as for little people go, you may be the biggest." With these words, a little of Sorkenshield's self-important color returned to his cheeks, and he closed his eyes again, lay back down on the bed, already dreaming of the awards and accolades this scene would receive. Billy patted him on the head, took away the potion Dumbledore was making out of Sorkenshield's remaining mushrooms, and left the tent. All that had happened after he was stunned, Billy learned later, but it brought him to more confusion than clarity. As Dumbledore kept mixing it up with another battle in which he had lost his weasel in a dusty hollow. Still, he managed to piece together a rough sketch of what went on. Even with the Eagles and the Ravens running a nearly flawless passing game, the little people and the elves and the humans found themselves outnumbered by the moblins and the wargies, and those 45 of their armies that had eventually joined in. That was when Bjorn appeared. No one knew how or from where, but it was hardly the first Deus Ex Machina they had dealt with, and certainly wouldn't be the last. Whatever machine gave birth to this golden god, though they were thankful for it, for Bjorn was in full Swede mode. His music was even catchier than Billy remembered, and he danced and fought with yet wilder abandon. Bjorn found Sorkin's shield crumpled up and tripping out of the pool of self-reflection, and his pain struck a chord with the Swedes. Just as the Elvis king was striking a powerful blues chord in the field below. What is this? Oh. He had learned the worst lesson that life can teach, that it makes no sense. And when that happens, happiness is never spontaneous again. It is artificial, and even then, bought at the price of an obstinate estrangement from oneself and one's history. That was weird, because that's not written how they usually have the songs. Whatever. He carried his fallen friend to the tent by the old rimrock and rejoined the fight with even greater fury and disillusionment. Meanwhile, the army battle of the 49 warring kings and one warring queen had grown as confounding as one might expect. The 5 newly arrived kings seemed far more interested in gratuitous nudity and elaborate expansion than actually resolving anything, and it didn't help their chances in battle when they froze after every hour and called it a cliffhanger. The moblins became rather fascinated with this, and more of them gave up fighting to see how the game of musical chairs would play out. Then, after a particularly bloody cliffhanger, the kings stopped and looked at one another, embarrassed. None of them actually read the books. No one knew what was going to happen next. The moblins solved this problem by killing them all and taking G.R.R. marauding prisoner, forcing him to write in more death scenes until they were satisfied. From there, things only descended into further chaos. Kiwi was killed by a deforestation and an invasive mammalian predator, and Feely was killed by an arrow through his face. C.S. Losing put his faith in God. Richard Nixon put Puff's treasure into a slush fund, and the crazy corporal passive-aggressively threw paper airplanes at anyone who passed by his secret Hitler hole. Jesus. J.K. Rowling became fed up with the lack of gender parity and exited, exited, leaving only a casual vacancy where once you could have heard her cuckoo calling. At one point, the whole affair seemed like it was running out of steam, with Bane and Bard the Batman exchanging only half-hearted punches in the stomach, and Elrond and the Elvis King exchanging secrets on how to make massive amounts of white people go insane. Jesus. Oh my God. Then Kendrick Villar, a godlike creature with the flow of 1,000 rivers and the beats of 1,000 thunders, descended from the heavens. He delivered a single perfect verse, then ascended once again, having single-handedly reignited the battle below him and made all YOLOs seem rather silly. The Moblins and their allies fought valiantly, but in the end, they were no match for the fact that the good guys always win. The treasure of Oscars and Emmys and Golden Globes was split up evenly between Billy and Dumbledaff and all the remaining little people, except Drawlin and Ballin, who were left with one People's Choice Award to share. Drawlin argued that this was because they had not been forceful enough in claiming the treasure, while Ballin countered that they were facing a history of treasurelessness combined with insidious flaws in the treasure distribution system. Meanwhile, Hoary, Slory, and Courtney posed with their new bling. Beefer and Boffer had melted theirs into solid gold barbells. Loin and Groin gave very sincere acceptance speeches. And Doc died of consumption. That crazy lunger. Get it? Doc died of consumption. Lunger. Whatever. This left only Dumbledaff and Billy, who was now very eager to get home. The Graham side of him had begun to get worn out, and the bag boy side of him reminded him that he had probably missed at least one shift at the store. The pair briefly considered going back the way they'd come, through dozens of dangers and thousands of miles and months of character development. But their newly acquired treasure was heavy, and they were both a little drunk. So they decided to take the high-speed rail instead. As they boarded the convenient, and we're almost done, I promise. As they boarded the convenient and reasonably priced bullet train from Flail to Wobotabad, Billy waved goodbye to all the strangers and wonderful people he had met. Richard Nixon flashed him a V for victory, and Hoary flashed him her V for professional reasons. One lacked peekaboo. He was sad to leave every one of them, except Ballin and Drawlin, who still made him feel the uncomfortable obligation to examine his personal shortcomings and societal responsibilities. As he raced back home at an average speed of 180 miles an hour, he saw all the hills and valleys he had passed through on his journey. He saw the river where he and the little people had, well, never mind. He passed that too quickly. But here was where he heroically... Nope, missed that one too. Darn it, that was a really cool... Oh, right here. That was the thing with the spot... Nope, that one's gone as well. At least as they drew near Livinwell, he knew he would be able to hear one last song of convenient plot summary from the beautiful celebritologists living there. And that one was gone. And then, as last, Billy was home. So dumb. Convinced by the train's efficiency, if not its narrative function. He and Dumbledaff, who had spent the better part of the ride sketching pictures of Billy posing naked with horses, now stepped off the platform in Wobotabad, where the shapes of the land and trees were as well known to him as the arrhythmic beats of his heart. He was just flatlining it. Coming to the beginning of the town... Wait a minute, what? Coming to the beginning of the town, wide downhill... Wait a minute, what the... Anyway, he was coming to some downhill slope or something. I don't know. Sometimes they skip words on these. One of the proudest and only accomplishments in the history of Wobbit urban planning. He stopped suddenly and said, "Franchises. go ever on, over budget and underseen, through sequels that are quickly gone, and prequels that should never have been, and filmmakers who work on an epic scale, as to old habits they resort. Forget they're adapting a children's tale, adapting. That was all the better for being short. Yes, franchises. Go ever on, over budget and underseen, as cameras sweep from dusk to dawn, and fanboys drool over every scene. Yet before you adapt every chapter and letter, one word of advice you'd be wise to keep. A child may very well imagine something better once your saga sends him off to sleep. God, I can't wait for this to be over. Dumbledaff looked over at him.
Oh, my dear Harry,
he said.
Something is the matter with you. You are not the wabbit that you once were.
Billy smiled slightly, but was already regretting speaking the rhymes instead of singing them. Ha! See? I'm not going to sing. He returned to face his wizard friend.
Oh, never mind, retracted Dumbledore. I was just looking at you from behind.
Jesus. We're almost there. I promise. I know. It's Hang in there. And so they made their way through town, past the McDonald's and the McDonald's Express, past the McCafe and the old folks' home, which had been converted into a super McDonald's after all the older folks started dying young from eating too much McDonald's. Then they came right to Billy's door, or at least where the door should have been. That's odd, said Billy. I don't remember eating that. He rolled into his home, only to find that there was not much home for him to left. What? Only to find that there was not much home left to roll into. There was only an empty hole, robbed of all Billy's refrigerators and mini refrigerators and meat lockers and mini meat lockers. Everything was gone, down to the smallest crumb, and Billy knew exactly where he kept all his crumbs. The only thing of note left in the whole house was a note. You take my livelihood, I take your life. That's the burglaring way, buddy, and I don't care if you like it. Your well-qualified burglar neighbor, Craig. P.S. For tax reasons, I've attached a list of everything I took. I am a burglar, not an inconveniencer. As Billy read through Craig's list. Oh my God, that's painful. As Billy's read through Craig's list, which also contains some strange offers for adult services, he reflected on just how little he'd lost compared to how much he had gained. Specifically, he had lost a lot of mostly expired foodstuffs and gained an incredible amount of priceless treasure. This cheered Billy immensely, for he had not yet learned the universal truth, which notorious J.R.R. put so well. It turned out, though, that Billy had lost a lot more than just material goods. He had lost his reputation. It was as though no one remembered how respectable he used to be. Because that was exactly the case. 3 generations of Wobbits had come and passed while Billy was getting regular exercise. Still, Billy found that he didn't care much. People's opinions of you only matter as much as the people who have them. And Wobbits were best known for taking up a lot of matter and mattering very little. I'm a wobbit. So Billy used part of a... Wait a minute, what? Oh, so Billy used part of his treasure to buy some of the fancy organic food he had tasted in Livenwell, and the rest of it he spent on a treadmill, so that he could spend every day walking and talking and pretending he was back on another quest without ever leaving the safety of his uncluttered hole. And though few other wobbits believed any of his tales, all of which seemed cardiovascularly inconvenient... That was a tongue-tie twister for a second. All of which seemed cardiovascularly inconceivable. He remained very happy to the end of his days, and those were extraordinarily long. One autumn evening, some years afterward, Billy was sitting in his study, formerly his swallowing cubicle, and writing his memoirs, which he was thinking of calling There and Bored Again, a book you should buy for everyone you know. Just then, there was a knock at his newly installed unsalted rice cake door. It was Dumbledaff, and in preparation for an epilogue, he brought unconvincingly... Wait a minute, what? My eyes are rebelling. It was Dumbledaff, and in preparation for an epilogue, he had bought unconvincing old man makeup and 2 children he insisted belonged to Billy. What? Though they were actually just loin and groin. Come in, said Billy. We're going to move on from that. Who rarely got visitors now that he had put in a flight of stairs where the rolling path used to be. They sat down around the only dining room table left and fell to talking of their times together. Billy asked how things were going in the lands of the mountains with 0 friends, which they told him had gotten a lot more popular ever since global warming. Oh my God. Ever since, I'll just call it wobble warming had melted all the silly-looking snow off its head. Jesus. Bard the Batman had rebuilt the town of Fale as a gritty, critically acclaimed metropolis, and Richard Nixon had finally been run out of Raketown after he was discovered secretly spying on the beloved Rake. Balin had been elected the new master of Raketown, and though adored by the majority, he was bitterly opposed by a group of Ents calling themselves the Tree Party. Oh my God. He even faced a good deal of criticism from Drawlin, who viewed his election as a sign of progress, but also a potential excuse for certain Tree Partiers' claims that they were living in a post-racial society. Oh, here we go. This is my line. And Hermione has gotten really, really hot. I'm always looking for, hey, Hermione, added Dumbledore. Oh, what about you, Harry? How have you... Oh, I bumped you. I'm so sorry. Where was I? Oh, how about you, Harry? How have you passed your indiscriminate amount of time? This is dumb. Billy described all the ways in which his life had changed. He could now have changed his shirt without any assistance, and even buy new shirts without having to shop in the bedsheet section. He was able to hop a short distance into the air and catch a ball without having to catch his breath. But talking to Dumbledaff made Billy realize how much he had missed companionship, however senile. Maybe what had made him so happy in the wake of his YOLO was not the loss of so much weight, but the gaining of so many friends. After all, when you step on the scales of life, that's the only number that really matters. People with no friends go to hell. Jesus. I just don't feel like I fit in there anymore, Billy sighed. I even lost my job at the grocery store. I can no longer call myself a bag boy. At this, the last remaining twinkle in Dumbledaff's eye did its little dance.
"Oh, my dear Harry," he said, "if you don't fit in here, we'll just take you somewhere else. Never underestimate people's capacity to adjust. Take me, for example. I died halfway through this book, and just... What? Wait a minute, they what? Oh, I died halfway through this book, and they just replaced me with another old white guy."
Oh, Jesus. So, Dumbledaff led Billy across the street and over the bump and into another town that Billy had somehow never noticed before. It looked almost exactly like Wobolabad, but all of its references were outdated, and all of its jokes were better respected. Oh shit, the other one was funnier. It was almost as though it had been inexplicably reissued from the late 1960s in the hopes that people might buy it again, or buy it for the first time, and had been really confused.
"Welcome to Bag Eye," announced Dumbledaff, "home of the bogies."
Billy looked around, enchanted by the strange sights and sounds all about him. And there was Puff. The fierce dragon reared his head in a lonely corner to the tune of a controversial electric guitar, sniffing one more chance at friendship. Alas, there was still one thing bothering our good Wobbit. "What shall I call myself?" he asked. "I'm not a bag boy anymore, and all my heroism has left me feeling far from a Billy." There it was. That moment, Loin and Groin reached deep within themselves. Into the most hallowed recesses of their sophomoric minds. They took a deep, sensual breath. Then time stood still, and fate finally relieved itself all over everybody. "Dildo bugger!" they said in unison. And then they died, with stupid, idiotic smiles plastered across their stupid, idiotic faces. And so the newly christened Dildo prepared to start his new life in the town of Bag Eye. He turned to the wizard who had given him so much while making so little sense. "Thank you, Dumbledaff," he smiled. "I don't know how I will ever repay..."
"Oh, I'm so sorry,"
said Dumbledaff, sheepishly removing his sword from Dildo's leg.
"I was sure you were a Horcrux."
Jesus. And that's the end. We have come to the end of this book. The end of this dumbass story. And we don't have to go on because, well, we read the other dumbass story and adventure. And I must say that one was probably funnier. We can now put this horror behind us, although the nightmare will truly never go away. It has now been almost 3 hours. And I can only say that I hope your night gets better after this. Many of you have simply probably just passed out from the stupidity at this point. And that's fine. I'm now going to say thank you to everyone for having stopped by and subjected yourself to this pain. I don't know why you do it. Well, I only read it because you wanted me to. So again, if nothing else, and remember this always, this entire farce was your fault, not mine. All right, so we'll carry on another time with another story. And like I said, it is the season. We do have to finish that other ghost story, so either sometime this week or next weekend, we'll probably go into finishing that one so we can get it recorded and put out. Because it is the season. But thank you for everyone for being here. And, well, I hope you don't think this was too painful. I'm going to see you out now. So here's our outro. Have a good night, and we'll see you later. And as always, thank you for taking the time to listen. The end.
Bold and free, chasing Elmo with a stun gun sea, laughing loud through the stormy sea. My crazy friend, you'll always be. Yamaha rider, bold and free, chasing Elmo with a stun gun sea, laughing loud through the stormy sea. My crazy friend, you'll always be. Roaring engines on a moonlit night, dodging danger, hearts alight. From the shore to the stars, our flight with my biker friend in sight. Crazy Yamaha rider, saying stupid things with laughter in the air as our voices sing. All the tales we'll tell and the joy it brings, my friend, forever on freedom's wings. Through the waves and the wild we roam, this Yamaha biker finds a home, telling tales with a joyful moan, stupid shit and laugh alone. From sunrise bright to twilight's end, forever riding with my friend. Through the storms, our hearts they'll mend, together on this path we wend. Crazy Yamaha rider, saying stupid things with laughter in the air as our voices sing. All the tales we'll tell and the joy it brings, my friend, forever